For years, the world only saw the perfect couple, Cristiano Ronaldo, the unstoppable football king, and Georgina Rodriguez, the woman who once turned his luxurious loneliness into a home filled with laughter, warmth and soft whispers at midnight. But behind the billion-dollar smiles and the diamond-studded Instagram posts, a storm was brewing. No one really knows when it began. Maybe it was a small lie. Maybe it was an unspoken truth that turned into a wall of silence. But what the world saw was simple. Georgina was missing from Ronaldo's side at matches, at galas, at family trips. And when people asked him where she was, he simply said, "No comment." The media went wild. Rumors of betrayal flooded every gossip site. Some claimed Georgina had crossed a line Ronaldo could never forgive. Others painted her as a gold digger who pushed too far. But in the mansions of Madeira, Turin, and Manchester, only two people knew the truth. And they weren't talking. Georgina tried. At first, she sent messages. Long emails, handwritten letters left unread. She showed up at his private training sessions, only to be turned away by tight-lipped bodyguards. Even their children, innocent and confused, felt the tension in the air. Why doesn't daddy talk to mommy? Why doesn't mommy sleep in the same house anymore? It was a heartbreak that stretched for years, hidden behind their carefully crafted public image. Ronaldo buried himself in his career. More goals, more trophies, more records, anything to outrun the loneliness that clung to him like a shadow. But at night, in those quiet hours when the cameras were gone, he stared at the empty side of his bed. He heard the echo of Georgina's laughter in rooms she once filled with life. And sometimes, he asked himself if pride was worth it. Yet every time he thought of reaching out, the memory of betrayal would snap him back. No, he told himself, some things cannot be forgiven. He was Cristiano Ronaldo, millions worshipped him. He could not be weak. But Georgina never gave up. Year after year, she found ways to whisper into his world, a gift for the children, a message through his sister, a silent prayer that maybe, just maybe, the man she fell in love with still existed somewhere behind that iron wall he built. And then, life did what it always does, it brought them back to the same place. A family event. A small, private gathering no paparazzi knew about. Ronaldo walked in, expecting cold smiles and polite nods. Instead, he found her eyes, still soft, still waiting. Still asking for nothing but a chance to say I'm sorry. For the first time in years, he didn't turn away. He didn't run. He listened. And that night, a door opened, just a crack, but enough for hope to slip through. But was it enough? Could a single conversation erase years of bitterness? Could forgiveness grow where silence once ruled? In this story, only time will tell. And time was ready to test them both. When that first conversation ended, Ronaldo found himself lying awake all night. For the first time in years, he replayed Georgina's words in his mind, not the rumors. Not the betrayal, not the headlines, but her trembling voice, saying, "Forgive me. Not for me, but for us." The next morning, he didn't train, like usual. He didn't check his phone for stats or deals or the next sponsorship contract. Instead, he sat alone in the garden of his villa, staring at the horizon where the sun rose behind the mountains, a horizon that once promised him everything, but now only asked one question: what's a man without love? Meanwhile, Georgina, back in Madrid, stared at her phone every few minutes, half hoping for a message that never came. She told no one about their talk. Not her friends, not her sister. It was too fragile to share, like a secret wish she didn't want to curse by saying it out loud. Days turned into weeks. Ronaldo trained, Georgina worked, but both carried a flicker of hope tucked away, hidden from the world that wanted to see them fail. Then, out of nowhere, Ronaldo called. No assistant, no manager, just him, raw, unguarded. He asked Georgina to meet him at a quiet place in Lisbon, away from prying eyes and gossip-hungry tabloids. When she arrived, he was already there. No suit, no designer shades, just Cristiano, the man who once promised her forever. They walked along the empty beach, waves crashing beside them like applause for the words they were too afraid to speak. They talked for hours. About the children, about the fights. About how fame turns whispers into earthquakes. About how people around them fed off their pain to keep headlines alive. And then, when the sun began to sink into the Atlantic, Ronaldo did something no one expected. He took a small box out of his pocket, one that had been hidden in a drawer for years. Inside it was the same ring he once gave her when he promised. They'd build a life no rumor could destroy. He held it out, not as a superstar, but as a man stripped of ego, asking for another chance. This time, he said, his voice barely above the sound of the waves, "We fight together, no secrets, no pride, just us. Will you stand by me again?" Georgina stood frozen, tears blurred the ocean behind him. She remembered the first time he asked her. Back then, it felt like a fairy tale. Now, it felt like redemption. She didn't scream. She didn't pose for pictures. She just nodded, whispering yes into his chest as he pulled her close. There was no audience, no paparazzi hidden behind dunes. Just two people who learned that sometimes you have to lose each other to understand what you almost destroyed. When they walked back to the car, they weren't Ronaldo and Georgina, the headline magnates. They were a man and a woman engaged for the second time, older, bruised, but stronger than ever. But if they thought the world would let them heal in peace, they were wrong. Rumors were already swirling. Cameras were already waiting. And in the shadows, old enemies whispered, "This won't last." But this time, Ronaldo and Georgina didn't care. They had something bigger than gossip. They had a promise, reborn, fragile, but burning bright in a world that wanted to see it die. The news didn't stay hidden for long. Within days, blurry photos leaked Ronaldo and Georgina side by side on that Lisbon beach. No press statement, no posed smiles. Just two silhouettes against the sunset. But for the tabloids it was enough. Headlines exploded. Ronaldo takes Georgina back. Engaged again, but for how long? Every gossip show dissected their reunion like vultures, circling a wounded lion. Some fans cheered. Others mocked. The world loves a comeback, but it loves a scandal more. But behind the noise, Ronaldo and Georgina ignored the chaos. They returned to his villa in Madeira, this time together. For the first time in years, the silence in his home was broken by laughter, children's voices echoing through marble halls. Footsteps racing down the grand staircase as Georgina called them for dinner. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever is. They argued. Old wounds reopened. Sometimes Ronaldo's pride still rose like a wall. Sometimes Georgina's fear of losing him again made her overthink every word. But every night, they promised each other, no more secrets, no more silence. One night, long after the kids fell asleep, they sat in the garden under a sky so clear it felt like the stars were listening. Georgina asked him if he was sure, really sure, that this time would be different. Ronaldo didn't promise the moon. He didn't say fancy words. He just reached for her hand and whispered, "All I know is, I don't want to live without you. That's enough." But the outside world wasn't so kind. Reporters camped outside their gates. Fake friends sold stories. An old acquaintance threatened to expose private messages that could twist their new beginning into yet another public nightmare. At first, Georgina panicked. What if it ruins us again? But Ronaldo didn't flinch. He held a press conference. Short, powerful, no fake smiles. Just one line for the hungry cameras. "We are family. We don't owe you our pain." Then he walked off stage, hand in hand with Georgina, leaving a room full of stunned reporters who realized they had no power over them anymore. In the days that followed, life slowly found a new rhythm. Ronaldo returned to training with a new fire in his eyes, not just for records or trophies, but because for the first time in years, he knew who he was coming home to. Georgina focused on their children, building a home stronger than any rumor. She shared fewer pictures online, fewer hints, fewer windows for strangers to peek through. They learned to protect what mattered, each other. And maybe that's what real love is. Not the perfect red carpets. Not the Instagram fairy tales. But the quiet moments, burnt toast in the morning, sleepy children climbing into their bed at dawn, stolen kisses before Ronaldo left for another game. Some fans still doubt them. Some critics still whisper. But if you asked Ronaldo today, he'd tell you, let them talk. He knows now that forgiveness isn't weakness, it's freedom, and that sometimes, you must break to be rebuilt stronger. So, under the watchful eyes of the world, Cristiano Ronaldo and Georgina Rodriguez were their second engagement like a shield, proof that love can survive mistakes, time, and the noise of a world that never stops watching. And as for the future, no one knows how the story will end. But for now, they have today. And sometimes, that's all you need. That's all you need.